If there's a book that can change a person's destiny when read early. If there's a book that can change a person's destiny when read early, then Scarcity would definitely be on the list. This book is particularly suitable for those who are in a state of being overworked and find it difficult to escape the cycle of constant busyness. This book tells us that when we feel like we lack something, we often end up lacking it even more. For example, when you feel like you're short on money, you may find yourself increasingly short of money. Or when you feel like you're short on time, networks, or knowledge, you may end up lacking those things even more. Why does this happen? The book introduces 5 concepts. The first is scarcity. The book defines scarcity as follows. It's the feeling of having less than what you need. For example, I wish I had extra time every day to do my own things, but there's too much work to finish. At this point, we start to feel a scarcity of time. Then someone might say, "Isn't that normal? It's because work is too busy, so there's no time." However, this normal phenomenon can bring us more problems. Later on, we'll explain in detail why it leads to more problems. Next, we'll introduce the second concept, bandwidth. What is bandwidth? It's the amount of information our brain can process simultaneously. This capacity is constantly changing. For example, if your boss scolds you today, your bandwidth shrinks. As a result, you might lose your temper at home. This happens because your brain can no longer process the usual amount of information. It's similar to how, when you're engrossed in a movie, you don't notice what others are doing around you. The third concept is tunneling. Tunneling refers to the effect where, under scarcity, people become overly focused on immediate needs and problems, neglecting other important information. For example, if you're very hungry but don't want to cook, you might be focused only on ordering takeout as soon as you get home. On the way home, you might miss a restaurant nearby offering a discount. This is focusing only on the immediate, while ignoring other information. The fourth concept is borrowing. Borrowing refers to how, when faced with scarcity, people often choose to borrow from future resources to solve current problems. While this behavior can temporarily ease the situation, it often leads to even greater scarcity and heavier debt pressure, creating a vicious cycle. For example, if a company delays paying wages, someone might decide to use a credit card to cover rent and daily expenses. Although this temporarily solves the problem, the high interest rates every month make it increasingly difficult to pay off the debt. The extra interest payments disrupt the original balance of income and expenses, forcing the person to borrow again. As a result, the debt hole keeps getting bigger. This might seem like a normal story, but behind it lies a significant scarcity. First, because the company delayed his salary, it made him feel the scarcity of money, but he also faces the pressure of paying rent. This shrinks his bandwidth. With less bandwidth, it leads to tunneling. He can only see that he needs to pay rent right now. I just need to solve the rent problem. So, what do I do if I don't have enough money right now? Borrow from the future, which makes the future even more scarce. There are countless real-life examples of scarcity. For instance, the person whose salary was delayed after getting home. He might lose his temper with his family out of frustration. Then, he'd regret it later. It's not that he doesn't love his family. It's just that his bandwidth shrinks, making it hard for him to handle family matters properly. It seems like a vicious cycle. So how do you break this loop? This brings us to the fifth concept, slack, which means that when dealing with scarcity, people need some extra resources or time to handle unexpected situations and demands. For example, a project manager ... His work schedule is extremely tight. Every day is filled with meetings, tasks, and deadlines. His time is incredibly scarce. There's almost no free time. He often finds that due to unexpected events, like emergency meetings or client calls, he can't complete his planned tasks. This makes him feel very anxious and stressed. Moreover, because he lacks time to handle these unexpected events, his work efficiency drops. He makes more mistakes. To improve the situation, he decides to set aside 1 hour every day as time to deal with unexpected events. At first, his colleagues were puzzled by this arrangement. They thought he was wasting an hour of work time every day. However, As time went on, he found that his work efficiency significantly improved. Because he has this buffer time, he no longer feels flustered when unexpected events arise. He can handle them calmly. Additionally, if there are no urgent events, he can use this time. This time also gives him a chance to rest and reflect, preventing fatigue and mistakes caused by continuous work. We all know that exercising is beneficial, but we just can't stick to it. This is because people feel that they are always lacking in pleasure. Nowadays, we can casually open our phones and scroll through TikTok, can easily achieve the goal of pleasure. But in reality, this is just us constantly borrowing time from the future for pleasure. In the end, disciplined people become stronger, while those who borrow future time for pleasure become weaker. So the poor are likely to become poorer. This is because poverty causes scarcity, which makes us neglect time, neglect exercise, neglect learning, neglect many things. I'll end today's reading with a quote from the book. Poverty and busyness are not simply about lacking money and time, they are a lack of mindset and ability. In the next episode, we will read the Book of Life. This is not only a guide for personal meditation and reflection, but also a textbook viewed by many as a philosophy of life. Read a little every day, and life will become a little better.